So we were doing the slave dynasty, and welcome ninthers, and wishing you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, and a very good evening, based on the time in which you'll be watching this video. Now we had talked about Iltutmish, his rule, and after Iltutmish, his sons were not that capable, so he had appointed Razia, his daughter, as the ruler, and she ruled from 1236 to 1240. She was a very brave person, and she was also a very able administrator. One thing to be kept in mind is that Razia Sultan was one of the first women rulers in the world, and she was the first woman ruler and the only woman ruler to ever sit on the throne of the Delhi Sultanate. And also after her also there was no such ruler woman who had sat on the throne of Delhi. So it was Razia Sultan. She was a person who was way ahead of her time. She never used to wear a veil in public, and she led and she held open courts, and she did not hold any type of closed courts. So she sat in the open, and that was something which the other nobles of Razia, they did not like. Actually, they did not like to be ruled by a woman, by a lady. So it was Razia Sultan 1236 to 1240. The Turkish nobles, they started conspiring against her, and she was defeated by Altunia, the governor of Sirhind. Sirhind is there in Punjab area, today's Punjab area. She was made a prisoner of Altunia, and she later married Altunia. And they tried to return back to Delhi to sit on the throne of Delhi, but then that was not to be, because they got defeated by the nobles and they murdered them in 1240. After that, you can see over here, Razia Sultan, she died, she was murdered in 1240, and Nasruddin Muhammad, he started ruling from 1246. So these 6 years, actually, what was happening was that there was a lot of internal troubles, internal quarrels, internal struggle, and there was no permanent ruler. It was in 1246 that Nasruddin Muhammad sat on the throne of Delhi, and Nasruddin Muhammad was not a very able king, and he was pleasure loving and weak, and it was Ghiasuddin Balban. It was Balban who was ruling actually in Nasruddin Muhammad's name. And after Nasruddin Muhammad, it was Balban who became the next ruler, and he brought in some kind of strength and stability to the kingdom, to the Sultanate. Balban ruled from 1266 to 1287. You do not need to keep these years in mind. So after Muhammad's death in 1266, Balban occupied the throne. He adopted a policy of sternness and severity. He established order in the neighborhood of Delhi. So the nobles, they were wanting power, they were conspiring against the rulers. So he brought in some kind of an order and instilled fear in the mind of the Turkish nobles by inflicting severe punishment on them, even for slight offenses. So he had seen how people had conspired against Razia Sultan, how people had become against Nasruddin Muhammad. So he knew one thing, that in order to be able to rule properly, he needs the support of the nobles, and the nobles need to fear him. So he instilled a sense of fear in them by inflicting severe punishment. He gave them severe punishment even for small offenses. Now, some of the nobles were even publicly flogged. Flogged meaning caned, or hit by a cane, or by a whip, or what you call a chabuk in Hindi. Now, some of them were the northwest frontier posts were strongly garrisoned. Important to keep in mind. If you look at the map, this is the northwest part of India, and this most of the invasions which happened in India happened from this northwestern part. Most of the invaders who have ever come to India, they have come through this northwestern frontier parts. So Balban knew one thing: so as to keep his empire safe, he has to strengthen these northwestern parts of India, and he made the defenses of those areas very strong, because the Mongols were always there. The Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, they wanted to enter India, they wanted to plunder India, and that is why it was necessary to strengthen the northwestern parts. Balban died in 1287. After Balban came the Khaljis. Now, Balban's successor Veeg, a grandson of Balban, was murdered in 1290, and the Sultanate passed into the hands of the Khaljis, belonging to a clan whose members were scattered all over India. So they belonged to a group who had members all over India. So the Khaljis became the next rulers. So Jalaluddin Khalji, he ruled from 1290 to 1296, was the first ruler of this dynasty. He ruled for a brief period of 6 years and could not bring about any important change in the administrative, personal, or structure of the government. Why? Because you need to rule for a longer period of time so as to bring some kind of a change in the government. But one of the main persons of the Delhi Sultanate, one of the most important rule of the Delhi Sultanate was the rule of Alauddin Khalji. Now he was the nephew and son-in-law of Jalaluddin, and he sat on the throne by murdering his aged uncle. So Jalaluddin, he was actually murdered by his nephew Alauddin Khilji. He raided Malwa. He raided means he attacked Malwa. Malwa is Malwa Plateau, those areas around Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, and also defeated the Rajput rulers of Ranthambore and Chittor. He then turned to the four wealthy kingdoms of the Deccan: the Yadavs of Devgiri, the Katakyas of Warangal, the Hoysalas of Dwarsamudra, and the Pandya kingdom with the capital at Madurai. Now, these were very rich kingdoms, the southern kingdoms, as you have read in the Chola Empire in that chapter. So, Alauddin Khilji, he raided, and you can look at the rule of Alauddin Khilji. This was Alauddin Khilji's empire, a huge empire. So, nearly all of India was under his rule. And no North Indian army had earlier managed to come so far as the extreme south of the peninsula. The task of conquest of Deccan had been entrusted by Alauddin to his military commander Malik Kafur. This person is very important. So Malik Kafur was his general, his most important general in the army, and it was he who actually led all the battles to the Deccan. Now Malik Kafur captured an immense booty. Booty means over here immense amount of money, which consisted of hundreds of elephants, thousands of horses and golds and jewels in large numbers. But southern India was not annexed. It means Alauddin Khilji did not capture these areas. He did not start ruling over these areas. What he actually did was that the rulers, they had to pay an annual tribute. That means some kind of a peshkash every year, or safety money, or hafta, as you know. So they had to pay some kind of an annual tribute to Alauddin Khilji in return for peace and protection. So Alauddin Khilji did not start ruling over these areas. He did not capture those areas. What he did was that he took money from those areas on a yearly basis. During Alauddin's rule, the Mongols again launched their plundering attacks, but they were defeated by Alauddin Khilji's armies. Now, these revenue and administrative measures of Alauddin Khilji will be doing in detail in the next video lecture, because this is important and this will need time. So till then, please take care, stay safe, and stay happy. Thank you.